So, welcome to Pints and Passerines. This is hosted by the Indiana Audubon Society, but we have special guests tonight from Feather Friendly Technologies, who I will introduce in a little bit. Just know that, again, if you're on Zoom with us, just try to keep yourself muted unless you have a question, or you can use the chat. Otherwise, we also are live on Facebook. Just know that there is about up to a 20-second delay on Facebook. So if you're commenting or posting questions on there, we'll get to them as soon as we can. So to start off Pints and Passerines, I am, of course, going to do a little bit of trivia, as always. And this time we have a prize to give away. Thank you so much to Paul and Feather Friendly Tech. They are actually the winner of our trivia, is going to get their own DIY tape, Feather Friendly tape to put up on your own windows and help save the birds. So what we're going to do for this trivia is it's not ID trivia. If you've been here before, it's just going to be A, B, or C answer that you can type in the chat. And we'll just kind of do the first person, or whoever gets the most right can win the prize. So the first question I have, they're all, I'm just going to warn you, related to the bird glass window collision crisis that we have going on. So the first question is, approximately what number of birds are dying from window collisions each year in North America? Is it A, 1 million, B, 10 million, or C, 1 billion? So A is 1 million, B, 10 million, or C, 1 billion?
Are we allowed to answer these two?
I mean, if you want. I hope you know the answer. All right, let people answer for a few seconds. If there's people on Facebook Live chiming in as well. Got a lot of people guessing B. Paul, did you want to say the answer? Do you know the answer? Or Amber?
Well, we know the answer, and unfortunately, it's C. It's up to 1 billion birds are killed, and that's B, or that's billion with a B, are killed per year in North America due to window strikes.
Yes, it is an incredible amount, so very sad. Question 2. I have, what percent of the population in the United States is killed by bird collisions every year? So now we're talking percent of population in the United States. Is it, oh, I have to tell you the answer. See, I'm used to regular trivia every time where they just type the answers. All right, percent of population, is it A, 5%, B, 10%, or C, 15%? Percent of population killed by window collisions in the United States. Give people a few seconds. We have about 10 people joining us on Facebook Live as well that are chiming in. Some of them have gotten them right. Paul, do you know the answer to this one as well?
I believe it's the 15%.
It, according to your website, is the 10% I pulled, but that could have changed. I also found a 2 to 9%, so I went with the 10. So I'm going with B on that one.
There you go.
Which is good that it's less in this case, right?
This is true. I'm glad I'm maybe wrong on that one, so that's good.
So the answer to the percentage of population that is killed by bird window collisions in the United States was 10%, and that was B. Next question we have, in terms of leading causes of death for birds, where does window collisions fall? Is it the number 1 leading cause of death, A? Is it B, the number 2 leading cause of death, or C, the number 3 leading cause of death? So where do window collisions fall in leading causes of death for birds? either of you know this? Otherwise, I will say the answer.
I
Number
think there's some
2.
debate around this.
Oh,
But
there's
I'm not
debate.
gonna debate it.
Well, of course, there'll always be new research studies, right? The best one that I found was it is the second leading cause of death. You are correct. So that would
Right.
be answer B.
Yeah, and so everyone knows what number 1 is cats.
Yes. Oh, yep,
And habitat loss.
Yes, correct.
of course. All right, 2 more questions I have. The next question is, which type of birds, according to a recent study, which type of birds are more likely to have window collisions? Are they A, insect-eating birds, B, fruit-eating birds, or C, seed-eating birds? Insects, fruit, or seeds? According to a recent study that came out, which one is more likely to have window collisions? People some guesses all over the board on this one. All right, the answer, this is again, of course, according to a recent study, is A, insect-eating and woodland-dwelling birds were found to have higher collision rates than other birds. All right, last question. What percent of collisions occur at low-rise buildings, which are considered 1 to 3 story buildings? Again, these are according to recent studies. Is it 1% of collisions, 44% of collisions, or 56% of bird window collisions? What percentage of collisions account for low-rise buildings, 1 to 3 stories? All right. The answer is 56% of window collisions are in low-rise buildings, which is the 1 to 3 stories. The 44% was found at residences, whether it's urban or suburban or rural, and 1% of the window collisions were actually on high rises in this particular study. So kind of a little different than maybe what you would have guessed, but that was our fun trivia. I will announce the winner at the end, okay? Just to keep you on your toes. But now, let's get into our talk. Again, if you just joined us or are joining us on Facebook Live, welcome to Pints and Passerines, the bird collision edition with Feather Friendly Technologies. And we have some awesome guests here. We have Paul and Amber from Feather Friendly Technologies who are going to speak to us a little bit about what they do and what Feather Friendly stands for and how you guys can help with the bird window collision. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and I will kind of turn it over to you two.
Well, thanks for the opportunity, guys. I'll give Amber the opportunity to introduce herself, and then I'll introduce myself, and then we'll get right into it.
Yeah. Okay, so my name is Amber, and I joined Feather Friendly almost a year and a half ago, and I'm the customer relations manager, but I wear a lot of hats. Yeah, I did my thesis actually on the bird collision issue in Toronto, and had my internship with Flap Canada, and that was kind of how I was connected with Feather Friendly. Yeah, I'm happy to work for the company. Toronto was the first city in the world to enact bird safe building legislation. So something to be proud of there. And yeah, we're working on hoping to see this spread all over the world. So yeah.
And my name's Paul. I am the Vice President of Feather Friendly. I joined about 3 years ago to, was given the opportunity to sort of to take the company in a little bit of a different direction. I guess a little bit of history on Feather Friendly, how we got into this. As Amber mentioned, the City of Toronto was the first city in the world to develop bird safe guidelines. Our sister company, we're the 3M master distributor for film products across Canada. So when the city instituted the new guideline standards, then the city as well as Flap Canada had approached our sister company about, hey, you know we've got an issue. You know, you have some suggestions on what sort of mitigation products can be developed or materials can be developed. So that was 15 years ago. Fast forward 15 years, Feather Friendly, it's its own incorporated company. We have our own manufacturing facilities here. We service worldwide now. We got our start on the commercial end of things, which is sort of like the larger project end of things. And I want to say about 8 years ago, we started with the Feather Friendly DIY, which, you know, we realized very quickly there's a massive need in the residential end of things. In the big picture, residences are the biggest killers of birds, just based on the sheer volume of them. The thing is, commercial buildings and other structures like that, they get the focus because they're public buildings. So, you know, you go into a downtown core in a financial district and you're walking into a building and there's some dead birds there. The odds are there could be 500, 1,000 people walking through there in a day. So it's getting the focus where, you know, your home doesn't get 100 visitors in a day. I hate that it took a pandemic for people to sort of realize the scope of residential strikes. We're away from our homes. You know, pre-COVID, we were away from our homes the majority of the day. By the time we come home, there could be no remnants of a strike. You may not see anything on the window. If a bird has hit and died, the odds are it's been scavenged. Or if it's been stunned, it may fly off into the local vegetation. And unfortunately, research shows that the majority of them do pass away. Our business exploded last year in the residential market. It probably tripled to quadrupled over the season, and this year it's off to a big start as well. You know, it's fairly inexpensive solution to the bird strike issue. It's durable. It's got the longevity in it. You know, the unique thing about our product is it's just the markers stay on the glass, and they're only a 1/4 inch marker. They only cover about 8% of the actual glass surface. So they really don't take away from your view or the aesthetics of a building, and they work. We have a motto. We talk about Feather Friendly as education, conservation. Oh, and by the way, we've got a proven solution. You know, like any company, we need to sell product to keep the lights on, keep us all employed. But that's not really what we're all about. We're all about that education and awareness. That's been a big thing for us over the years. as we all know, this collision issue is reaching an all-time high as far as awareness. You know, you've got municipalities putting in standards in place, with New York City being the last one that came into effect in October. From my understanding, that was about 12 years in the making. Up here, we've had Ottawa just approve bird safe guidelines. You're starting to see more and more municipalities within North America take on these standards or these guidelines into the building code, which is incredible. You know, it will have such a large impact on bird conservation. And even with, you know, a lot of the larger cities looking at bringing in mitigation to existing buildings, which, you know, we do a lot of new construction, but our product was developed more for the retrofit sort of idea. So we've done what haven't we done? We've done military. So we've done the White Sands Missile Test Range in New Mexico. We've done zoos all over North America and outside of North America. We've done universities and colleges. We've done nature parks. We've done several of the Audubon facilities, state parks.
Government buildings.
Yeah, government buildings and privately owned buildings. You know, people are understanding this is a massive issue that needs to be addressed. It's funny, you know, even though we've been doing this for 15 years, I still sort of look at this as us being a startup company, because there's so much work still to be done. There's still much, you know, more education and awareness, but this is why we love doing things like that, like this, that, you know, bring that awareness up, and educate people. You know, we're a part of a lot of different Facebook groups, and you know, one of the things that I struggle with sometimes is like misinformation. So we're big on trying to talk about information, not just feather friendly. So for instance, like really the 4 key things to any bird collision mitigation. 1 is always first surface exterior application. The whole idea is you're breaking up that surface reflection. So a bird can be bombing along and go, whoa, there's something there. There's, you know, I need to avoid that. You know, something is better than nothing. I do agree with that. And I know ABC sort of supports that, American Bird Conservancy. But a lot of times anything on an interior window put on the inside, it can be totally lost depending on the time of day and the way the sun hits. I realize in certain circumstances on a residence that's maybe got a 2nd or 3rd story window that's impossible to get to, you know, it's great to at least do something. But that first surface exterior application is so key. And I guess to speak further to that point, the thing about our product too is, again, we use premium quality materials, and we do use some 3M products in our own proprietary product. So at the end of the day, you're getting something that, yeah, it might be a little difficult to install. There may be a cost associated with it, with having to hire someone or having a dealer applicator install it. But this isn't something you're going to be doing, you know, in the next 3 years again. We have projects in the city of Toronto that are 12, 13 years old that look and perform like the day they were installed. You know, we're fully expecting the product to have a 12 to 15, maybe even longer. Again, we've been doing this for 15 years. We've never had a client call us back yet and say, hey, the dots are falling off the window, we need to replace them now. So we can't really speak to what's going to happen when it doesn't work. But and you know, that's with exposure to all of the Toronto elements. So all the seasons with regular cleaning, Now, one of the questions we do get with the DIY for residences, we have a lot of people who have said, you know, listen, I rent. Our landlord has said that we can put them up, but we need to remove them when we leave. Or if someone wants to put them on their home, say they want to go sell their home down the road, can it be removed? And yes, it can be. So a razor blade style scraper, not a putty knife. A putty knife will scratch glass, but a razor blade style scraper and any residue that's left over can be cleaned off. So sorry, I got off track on that one. So number one, to recap, was first surface exterior application. The second key thing is spacing. There's a lot of talk about spacing. Really, when it comes down to it, best practice is every 2 inches by 2 inches. Here in Toronto, we're in a major migratory bird path, and we get a lot of smaller species like hummingbirds, and any sort of the bigger spacing patterns can prove to be ineffective with these smaller birds. Case in point, when Toronto set the standard in place about 15 years ago, they agreed upon a 4-inch by 4-inch spacing. And as of January, January 1st of 2020, they actually changed the standard to 2 by 2. So that was a big win. You'll see a lot of like ABC or Audubon, FLAP. I know a lot of the different organizations talk about that 2 by 2 spacing. So third point is contrast. Contrast is a big thing. And I always use this analogy. If you've ever been in an office building in the last few years, they use a lot of glass, interior glass. By law, they have to have what they call a vision strip, which is usually installed around that 4 foot, 5 foot range off the floor. And it's usually a band of like 1 inch or 2 inch of, they'll call it like a dusted material, so it's visible. That's so humans don't walk into glass. I get videos sent to me all the time of people walking into glass, and you know, there's all kinds of memes about it. You know, birds need that visual clue. They need to see something that, hey, there's something in its way. I can get off onto another tangent about UV and how birds only see within the 300 to 400 nanometer spectrum, UV spectrum. Songbirds don't see UV as well as, you know, some other birds. There's all kinds of research around it. UV is something that, you know, is out there. There's papers that have, you know, research papers that have, I guess, sort of poked holes through it. It's an up and coming technology. I don't think we're there yet, and I think some of the professionals or researchers, you know, would sort of agree with that. But that's a whole nother thing. I'm more than happy to answer any questions on it, because I know there are some products out there that are UV decals that can be applied to windows. You know, the only problem with those is that they only last about 3 to 6 months. So you're constantly replacing them. And, you know, to properly space on a window could be very, very expensive, especially with having to replace them on the regular. And then the last criteria 4 is it talks about height. So this is more for commercial buildings, but they talk about really your first 4 stories of a building or top of the mature tree canopy, whichever is greater, should be treated. So a lot of times when we do commercial projects, we're treating basically that first 4 stories of a building. Because most of the strikes, you know, you can have strikes happen higher up in a building, but they're a lot more, they're fewer and far between. And for the cost of trying to do a building, and for the ease with equipment of doing a building, that first 4 stories is sort of the sweet spot. You know, it's where, you know, a bird may be sitting in a tree looking across, seeing the same tree in a reflection of a building, and fly to it. So again, those first 4 stories. I think we covered off that end of it. Amber, do you have anything to add about the DIY or the, we do actually have a retail product too that we do sell through some of the Audubon chapters as well as Wild Birds Unlimited, but Amber can maybe speak a little further to that.
Yeah, so I actually have here the part of the leftover roll of DIY that I had from treating my patio door. So this is what's left of the roll after I've treated my patio door, but this is what you get. This is the DIY product. And so it comes in this little roll of tape like this. As you can see, it's got these evenly spaced markers on it. And so you put the tape on your glass, and then you peel it off, and what's left behind are just these little they're pearl gray squares. They look kind of white after they look white after you get them on the glass, and they're called pearl gray, but they look white. Anyway, that's what's left, just the little square. So that's what you get with the DIY. It comes with a little squeegee, because you got to push it onto the, get the adhesive to stick to the glass. You get these little paper measuring tapes. This is how you measure, you space your rows of the marker tape evenly. And then you get a little instruction sheet. This is our old instructions. We're revamping right now, but that's essentially the kit. And yeah, I mean, it's designed for treating, your windows, a window or two, a patio door. And yeah, like Paul was saying, once this is up, you're good for a number of years. I can speak from personal experience. I have installed this on my own windows and patio door. It takes an afternoon to do a window. You kind of get into the hang of it as you go along. At first, you're a little, it takes you a little bit longer to put the first few rows on. But once you get into it, it kind of goes a little bit faster. And yeah, it does take a little bit longer to put up than, say, the hawk silhouette decals. But again, once you're done, you're set. You don't have to worry about it again. You can wash your windows as normal, and it will last for years and years. Obviously, this is not an ideal product for treating a large scale building or a lot of glass. It would take forever. Although we have had actually. The South Korean government has been ordering this DIY rolls by the thousands, and they're actually using it to treat the sound barriers along their highways, which are all glass. So it is a huge problem there with tons of birds colliding with the glass against the sound barriers. But they've really started it. I guess it's like a community project where they have hundreds of volunteers doing this. So, I mean, it's not ideal for large scale commercial. That's why we do have the commercial product as well. But yeah, like this is what you get for the residential. It's really ideal for that. And as we were talking about earlier, the high rises do tend to get the publicity, the negative publicity, because it's so visible when you walk by a public building and you see, especially in migration season, you see the dead birds that have collided. It's very striking, it's very visible, and that is a problem. But we know, at least the study that Sam mentioned earlier, that a majority of strikes do happen at residences, at your home. And that's simply because there are so many more of those type of buildings than there are high rises. So yeah, you can.
No, I was just gonna
Yeah,
say,
yeah,
here's a world exclusive. This is our new packaging that we just got in. You guys are the first ones to see it. This
Yep.
is what will be going into the Wild Birds Unlimited stores very shortly. We do sell to a fair amount of them. And then also we do have our online store. You know, Amber was talking in particular about South Korea. To give you guys an idea, we've addressed just over 500,000 square feet of clear sound barriers, as well as a few buildings in South Korea just within the last year. Since we've been doing this, we've got several million square feet of our product out there. We've done projects for the Smithsonian Institute of Research in Panama. We've done projects in Poland, in Germany, in Brazil, all throughout North America, South Korea being a big one, Taiwan. We just love that more and more people are getting the awareness or getting the education around this. And, you know, yeah, we think Feather Friendly is the best product out there. A little bias, I guess. However, if someone treats a window, whether it's our product or someone else's, we all win. There is so much work to be done in this marketplace or whatever you want to call it. And, you know, our goal is to just keep going, just to keep educating. You know, that's a really, really big thing for us. And, you know, the really cool thing about the birding industry is I find that everyone is very, very passionate. It's a great industry to be in. It's a lot of fun. We've made a lot of contacts, a lot of great relationships, and we just want to continue that. And, you know, I mentioned earlier, one of the things I struggle with is the misinformation out there. And I've got this grandiose idea of getting us all on the same page and, you know, speaking the same language and, you know, talking about the issue. Because misinformation can get shared so easily, especially in the internet age, that, you know, I sometimes you have to, like, I find myself correcting people, and I don't want to sound like a know-it-all because I'm not. Point in case, full disclosure, I know what a pint is. I got a French last name, but I'm very Irish, so I know what a pint is. I actually had to ask Amber the other day, what's a passerine? I don't quite understand that. So she explained it to me, and I'm like, wow, I should have known that. But, you know, we see information shared out there sometimes that, the birds hit a window, it's okay, it was stunned for a second, it flew off, it's okay. Well, no, research shows that most of them go and pass away in local vegetation. I've read people saying, yeah, put it in a box with water and food. Well, that's the last thing you should be doing. You should be putting it in a box, but no food or water until you can get it to a rehabber. I read one that, and everyone has good intentions at heart, but someone had said, put a tea towel in a microwave it for 30 seconds and wrap it around the bird. And it's like, but then you see people saying, oh, thanks, I've never heard that before. That's a great tip. And it's like, no, we need to all get on the same page and share, you know, verified information. So again, that's sort of our main goal. And, you know, guys, I could go on and on and on, as Amber can attest to. I think we're tied to an hour here, and I want to be very respectful of that, because I've noticed that there's a couple of questions, and we'd love to, answer questions anyone has. And I see here that Mona had asked in the chat, if you already have some solar film on your home on the inside of the windows, are the dots still effective on the exterior? And yes, they are. One of the things that sometimes people worry about, and there's terminology in our industry about solar load, about putting something on glass that will cause a solar load or them to superheat and to break the seal on the glass. Our product doesn't do that because it's not a true film. It doesn't cover the entire window. It's just dots evenly spaced. So Mona, as far as your question there, no, the dots will definitely still be effective on the exterior. It won't change the solar film or the effectiveness on the solar film on the home. Yeah, I don't know if there's any other questions, but we're happy to answer them. Sorry, go for it, Sam.
Yeah, I just had a question. I was writing some down while you were talking. So, so for people that are looking to get some of, the feather friendly or, any kind of sort of window coverings, are there specific windows or areas that, if they maybe can't put them on all their windows, are there certain ones that you would say are better than others, like placement wise or something like that?
Well, a lot of times, I hate to say it, but the past is a perfect predictor of what the future will be, right? So, if you've got a window that you've had a couple strikes on it, start with that one. There's certain things you can do. They talk about proper feeder placement, being within 3 feet of the window, because a bird will fly to the feeder. And if for some reason they're spooked off the feeder, or when they go to fly away, they haven't really gained momentum enough to hurt themselves if they glance off the window. Where, obviously everyone wants to be able to see their birds from their home. A lot of times they place the feeder, 15, 20 feet out from the large picture window. I always tell people a perfect thing to do is go out in the middle of the day and look at your house in different lighting conditions, and you'll see, because a lot of times I'll tell people, send me pictures from the inside looking out, so what we're looking at, and from the outside looking at the house. And 9 times out of 10, it's what I call the perfect storm. It's all this mature vegetation, trees, it's gorgeous, but, it's being reflected from the outside, and a bird can't discern that that's glass. It can't discern that that's the tree it's flying from. It just thinks, hey, there's another tree that I want to go to. So little things like that, if you can install on your lower windows, that's a great start.
Yeah, if you go outside and look at your window and you see vegetation reflected in the window, that's the window you need to treat.
Awesome, thank you. And just kind of piggybacking off that, you mentioned it a little bit, but if people, obviously this is quite a big crisis for the birds, what are some other things that people can do besides putting up like feather friendly things on their windows? Are there other things like their bird feeders that they can put farther away?
Well, yeah, the bird feeders is a big thing. You know what? There's simple, inexpensive solutions that, well, really don't cost any money. Don't wash your windows. Keep your windows dirty. Because that will, cut down on the reflection. I've heard of, and I've seen it, where people during spring migration or fall migration have literally soaped their windows. So it almost has like a white, soapy sort of exterior to it, so it's not reflective. You can get fun. You can have fun with this and get acrylic paint pens. Get the kids out there drawing designs on it. It won't last that long, but it's something. Putting streamers. You know, you have to watch spacing and stuff like that. But
Big little sticky notes.
yeah, sticky notes. Again, they get wet, and they won't last that long. But I've seen it. You know, there's all kinds of things you can do. You know, the bird feeder, and I'm trying to think off the top of my head, the bird feeder one is a big one. Again, treating the windows in various ways.
Like, like screens on your window, on the outside of your window, if you can leave those up, those are highly effective.
Yeah, that's a bird deterrent, a screen on a window. You know, some people take them off during the winter because they're not opening their windows. And there's a big misnomer too. Strikes happen all year long. Obviously, there's more focus during migration season because there's an influx of populations. But strikes will happen year long. We know one of our partners, Salt Haven rehabbers up here, they just posted something the other day where they had a hawk hit a window. So, you know, they happen. I like, sorry, I just saw Patty's, she said, I think I'll go with the dirty window technique, less to clean. And you know what? It's funny, a lot of people, you know, it's a perfect excuse not to clean your windows. You know, but it does work. It can be effective. Will it be the most effective? I don't know, but it's you know, what was that commercial years ago where it was the two crows on a line, and they were watching the guy clean his windows, his like patio sliding doors with Windex, and he then like someone walks into it or the bird flies into it or something. It's a perfect example. If, you know, humans are walking into it when it's nice and clean, you know, if it's a little dirty, a bird's gonna, you know, it might cut down on that reflection. Anything else from anyone? We're more than happy to answer anything. And guys, after this, if you come up with anything after the fact, more than happy to you know, answer any questions. You can email Amber or myself. Mona just put, do you have approved installers in the Indy area? So we do have authorized dealer applicators that can install. They tend, so there's two routes you can go. If you go the DIY route, I would suggest talking to a window cleaner or a local handyman, because if they're coming out to clean the windows, they may want to put it up at the same time. For an authorized feather-friendly dealer applicator, they're going to want to do our commercial product, which there's trade-offs. The commercial product comes in a 3-foot by 150-foot roll or less, depending on what's required. It gives a much more professional installation. That's what's used on larger scale projects. It is more expensive because of that. The installation goes a lot quicker. But Mona, if you want to send us an email, I'm more than happy to you know, do an introduction for you with an authorized dealer applicator, and they give out you know, no cost quotes, so at least you can get an idea. It's funny, we're finding more and more people that they're going, you know what, we want to do the whole house, let's go the commercial route. And Pam had a question, I think Amber answered it there, but did you say it's installed on the inside or the outside? Always the first surface exterior. Is there a list of Wild Birds Unlimited stores that we can find online who will offer your new kit? There are, so we deal with a fair amount of the stores. We do not deal with all of them. That's what we're working on. My recommendation is you can contact us and we can tell you, or call your local Wild Birds Unlimited store and ask them if they carry feather friendly. I'm being a little selfish because that helps us too, because we're constantly on them to carry our product. Oh, and there you go. Sam has posted there about the Indiana Audubon has some available in their store, with the proceeds going to the Lights Out Indie initiative, which is awesome. We want to support our partners as much as possible.
Yes, and just a note on that. I know. Sorry, go ahead, Amber.
Oh, I was just going to say, I think in terms of Wild Birds Unlimited too, if you go to my WBU store, you can search for feather friendly, and I'm not sure. I think it'll tell you if it is available at your local store or not. So that's another way you can search for it at Wild Birds Unlimited.
The only thing to worry about that though is I wonder how quickly they're updating it as we're adding stores. So it may be worthwhile a call to your local store. If you struggle at all, we do have our own online store that we ship from our head office here. In the chat, I dropped my personal email address there for Feather Friendly. By all means, if anyone has any questions or any way we can help you out, do not hesitate. That's what we're here for. And I'm a firm believer, there's no such thing as a stupid question, because hence I had to ask Amber what Passerines was. So there you go.
I thought that was great.
We're learning, we're learning a lot as we're going along too. And it's through conversations like this. It's learning what people are running into. We're all in this together, and if we don't have the answer, we'll get the answer.
There is a question on Facebook Live too. Nancy wants to know if you know how effective monitoring programs are in encouraging cities to act or kind of do something about their windows.
That's an excellent question, and it is very, very key. It raises the awareness. So there's a couple different, I believe Cornell has a mapping system. Flap Canada has the global bird mapper that is linked from our site as well, where you can go and actually register a strike. And all of that information is so important. To be honest, guys, that is how a lot of building management groups, a lot of cities are really paying attention to the issue. Case in point, last fall migration in Philadelphia, and this was tied to the Philly Audubon. Peter does monitoring every morning. He found 1,500 birds dead within a handful of buildings. If you look at the Philadelphia Standard, I want to say it was in September, October, it was 1,500 birds. So you can imagine, if that's what he found, what actually happened. Because a lot of times when we do presentations, we'll say to people, hey, how many bird strikes have you had? Put your hand up if you've had 1 or 2. Keep your hands up if you've had 3 or 4. By the time you get to 4 or 5, people's hands go down. And I'll always say, okay, you said 4 to 5? Okay, multiply that times 10, and that's what you're actually getting in a year. And people are dumbfounded, but we know through, and that's why we say up to 1 billion birds are killed per year, because there's so many birds that are scavenged by the time people get out to monitor or to do the walk around in buildings. There was a paper last year, and I wish I could remember what it was, where they were talking about birds of prey and their behavior changing. They were literally documented sitting on a telephone pole across from a building that had a major strike problem. And what they were doing is waiting for birds to hit the window, be stunned or killed. They'd come down, grab them, quick, easy meal. they didn't have to do anything. So it's amazing how behavior is being changed with all of this too.
Mhm.
So to answer Nancy's question, it is very, very key. And that's why organizations that are out there, like all of the lights out programs, all of the monitoring programs through the Audubons and other groups, it's so, so key. It's such valuable information for all of us.
Awesome. Yes, and I'm just going to put a plug in there for at the same time for the Lights Out Indie program, which is
Perfect.
kind of at home for those of us in Indiana. So the Lights Out Indie program is run through the Amos Butler Audubon Society, which is based out or near Indianapolis. And basically what their initiative is they're working with the city of Indianapolis and residents as well to turn their lights off at night and reduce bird collisions between the hours of, midnight and dawn, or a little before. That's when a lot of the migration is happening, and sometimes those lights can really interfere with where birds are going, and if they're hitting those windows especially. You were talking about the contrast, and it's hard enough I'm thinking of even when I'm driving, like seeing with a bunch of lights glaring off, it's really difficult. So that's what the Lights Out Indie program is really pushing toward, and they have some really awesome things that you can do to help, just whether you live at home in your own house, or you're a manager of a building, or you rent from somewhere. There's a lot of things to help them do, or that you can help. And Wes is on with us, but he's driving, so he can't. He's just kind of been listening, and he said, either contact Wesley Amoya or Austin Broadwater. They are the ones kind of leading that through the Amos Butler. And I will you can contact them on Facebook, and I'll also drop their Wes's emails and Austin's as well as the website here in the chat quickly. But right now we do have in the Indiana Audubon store, we have some Feather Friendly tape that Feather Friendly has graciously donated to us. And all of the proceeds, if you purchase it through our store, are going to go to the Lights Out Indie program to help them kind of further that around Indianapolis. So we really appreciate that as well.
And I will add one more quick thing. If there's anyone who, pardon me, is, interested in sort of approaching their employer or a building, or they know that there's an issue, if anyone ever needs, some backup, some information to help them, or samples, or anything like that, feel free to reach out to us, because we spend, I spend a lot of my time consulting with architects, with builders, working on various projects. So we're more than happy to help out.
Awesome. Thanks. We really appreciate you guys coming and chatting with us. I am just going to double check that we didn't miss any questions on the Facebook as well. But if anyone else on here has them, feel free to unmute or ask away in the chat. Oh, we did get a few comments on Facebook that said people have used your product and it's really helped. So that's awesome.
Good. We love feedback. We love pictures. We love all that sort of stuff. So thank you.
Send us some pictures. We love seeing the pictures.
Awesome. Yeah, that would be great. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much again for coming to Pints and Passerines with us and talking about, like you said, this is something that anyone that's interested in birds should take notice to, not just, whatever you're going to do to help reduce those window collisions. So we really appreciate taking your time, and hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Yeah, thanks again to you, Sam, and to everyone who joined. We appreciate having your ear, and thank you for your time.
No problem. Thank you. Oh, and I almost forgot to mention before we left the winner of the trivia and the free tape. It is Teresa, who is on here. Teresa Costes. So congratulations. You will, I will, if you wouldn't mind sending me your address, you can do a private chat, or I'll send you one, and then I will get it to Paul and he will send you your free tape.
There you go.
Awesome. Well, thanks again, guys. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys have a good night.